In today's video, we're talking about the pound GBPUSD as it rotates higher so far this week. However, it did drop below some critical levels last week. So I'll have the details in today's video, including what to watch, also the latest on the DXY. So by the time you finish watching this video, you will know exactly how to trade the pound this week. Now, if you guys want my help with your trading, including seeing my trades live, also VIP only videos, real-time market updates in Discord, and also full access to the course, check out the link in the description of this video for 85% off lifetime access to VIP. If you're on the website, click on that join VIP link. All right, so looking at the pound, GBPUSD daily time frame. So last week, guys, we had a big drop from this market following the retest up here of those single prints that we've talked about around 1.37. So all of these back here, if you'll notice from back here in July, this was a very aggressive drop from the pound. And what you'll notice here is that we had a very shallow retrace into this area. So that left three single prints up here in this region, right around 1.37. So we've discussed all this in recent videos. And so these areas, guys, tend to serve as magnets for a market when you get a very aggressive drop like this, and then you don't get the market essentially filling in, quote unquote, filling in those areas. So what we saw last week during FOMC was the market come up here, taking out this area. It came within 2 pips of that top single print up here. So essentially filling in all of these single prints that we've talked about while the market was consolidating back here in this area. Now with that drop, we also saw the pound drop below this 135.80 area. So this is going to be a big moment now this week, because if you look at the weekly time frame, it does look relatively bearish for this market. However, at the same time, you've got to be aware that we have been sideways here for several weeks. Okay, so this is not a market that is trending right now. And so you have to keep that in mind when you look at a candle like this, because right now, again, we have no momentum here from the pound. Really, a lot of these markets right now are just very sideways here in September, and they have been for the past few weeks. Okay, so keep that in mind that even though this is a very bearish looking candle, right now the pound is also very sideways. Now, what you tend to get with candles like this, so we talk about this a lot in these videos, but notice the upper wick here from last week. So this upper wick right now is a sort of magnet for this market. Okay, so we talk about this a lot here where upper wicks like this tend to get filled in, especially in a sideways market. Look no further than back here, this long lower wick down here, this got partially filled in, although I still think that there is an imbalance down here in this area, this poor low. However, what we could see from the pound so far this week, and I talked about this in the weekly forecast, but if you look at the 30-minute time frame, okay, so let's zoom in here and take a look at the 30, because this is essentially your area right here that the market dropped below last week. Okay, so it tried to hold above it through here. It did close below last week. Now, what we talked about in the weekly forecast was that there was a single print right here at 135.29. We've also got 135.74. So far this week, guys, this has been satisfied. We've seen the pound come up here, tag that level. That has been satisfied. However, this upper one up here is still open for business. Okay, so this is going to be a big test now for this market, and whether or not we see the market come up here and tag this area as well is yet to be seen. However, the fact that we have that single print up here, also the DXY below 97.7 still, and like I said, on the weekly time frame, we do have that long upper wick that could serve as a magnet this week. Okay, so this imbalance up here in this area could serve as a magnet for this market. There's that single print up there just below this resistance level. Okay, so I do think this week, this is going to be the area to watch here for the pound. Now, we could get the market moving slightly above this area. However, this is going to be critical now on a weekly closing basis. In other words, as long as the market is below this on the weekly, you essentially have a range-bound market. Okay, so if you are trading the pound right now, or really any major currency pair, this market is range-bound until proven otherwise. And that's really important, guys. Don't go thinking that the market is going to do something just because you want it to do that. The fact is that this market is sideways, and it also dropped below this key level last week. Okay, so knowing that, we have this range here with resistance up here in this area and support down here at these lows. Okay, so what I am potentially looking for here from the pound would be for the market to come up here and tag this second single print up here, which again, this is that upper boundary of the resistance level that the pound fell below last week. And then potentially from here, we get that rotation lower back toward the lows, potentially down there toward that poor low around 134.18. Okay, so you've obviously got the lows down here in this area, but you've got that poor low at 134.18 that could also serve as a magnet as long as the market is below areas like this. Okay, right around 135.74. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for this week. Obviously, it's going to depend on what the price action looks like at the time. Don't just go and blindly short this market thinking that the market will rotate lower from there, because we don't know that. We have to wait for the price action. Okay, looking at the DXY, guys, let's take a look at this market. which, by the way, guys, if you are enjoying this content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, click the like button to show your appreciation. I always appreciate the support, guys. Looking at the DXY now, monthly time frame, this is that 2011 channel that we've discussed many times on this channel. So you've got the lows back here, you've got the lows here recently over the past few months, and you've got these highs up here, making this an equidistant channel. So right now, guys, as I've said in recent months, getting bearish on the US dollar into this area makes no sense. Just being blunt, it makes absolutely no sense to be bearish on the US dollar down here. Yes, we could get a break lower, but as long as the market is holding above this area on the high time frames, you've got to be really careful getting bearish down here. And I said that last week during FOMC. And sure enough, if you look at the daily time frame, this big green candle that bounced right there from this area was the FOMC candle. Okay. That was the FOMC bounce that we got right here from this area. We saw the market come down here, take out those poor lows in the 96.60 area, and then bounce aggressively from here. Now, one thing that I mentioned in the weekly forecast, it was that it depended on where this market closed around 97.70 into the weekly close. So looking at the weekly time frame, what I said in the last video was that where last week closed in relation to 97.7 was going to be key for this week. This was going to determine whether or not we saw the pound rotate higher this week, or if we would see a rotation lower first. Now, keep in mind a couple things here. First of all, the DXY did close below 97.7 last week. Notice it did not get above 97.7 last week. So that kept this intact as resistance so far this week. No surprise to see the US dollar rotating lower. Secondly, we have this very long lower wick. Okay, this very long lower wick following that FOMC week. So this right here, guys, is an imbalance that we're seeing the DXY now fill in, right? It's taken out this low back here. We're seeing it partially fill in that long lower wick. And so now the question is, how far lower do we go before we get a potential bounce? And I'm saying a potential bounce because, again, you've got to keep in mind, monthly time frame, guys, this is a 14-year level, right? So in my opinion, we are probably going to see some kind of bounce here. Even if this doesn't become the macro bottom for the DXY, the fact is that this is a very long running level. And so the idea of a bounce from this area is pretty likely, in my opinion, because we talked about this before as well. But let's look at the monthly time frame and take a look at the current price action and compare this to the last time the market came off of support, right? It's very similar. It's very similar in the sense that we got that first low, we had the market test that low again, and the same thing over here. We had the first low and the market just tested that first low again. Okay, so right now, guys, range market until proven otherwise. Essentially, if you look at this here on the daily time frame, if you were to remove just all of these levels right now, so if you took off all of these levels and just look at it like this is a range bound market. Okay, you've got range lows down here, you've got range highs up here. Okay, now obviously the market has some work to do to get back above 97.7, all these lows back here on the weekly time frame, but do that, and I think we're targeting some of these highs back here, potentially the top of this range. Okay, now obviously if we see the DXY rotate lower and close below areas like 96.5 on the high time frames, talking at least weekly, if not monthly time frame, then of course we could get a larger breakdown here from the DXY. Okay. But for now, guys, I do think it makes sense to look for buys on pullbacks. But again, when you look at the pound, really, guys, I don't know. I'm not convinced that we are through this relief rally just yet. I think that we could have a little bit higher to go here from this market, potentially back here toward levels like this, and especially that second single print up there around 1.3574. I think this is going to be the area to watch so far this week. If we do get a rotation lower from here or bearish price action from there, I think that could offer an opportunity to get short here, just to play the range that we've seen over the past few weeks. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. If the video helped, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. Also, join us in VIP. Check out the link in the description of this video for 85% off lifetime access. Trade out there, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.